Well, many of you have been wondering, Joel, where's your video or podcast episode on the assassination of Charlie Kirk? And I've been thinking a lot about how we respond to cultural moments. And if you follow me on Instagram and you follow me on Substack, you know that in the days and really even hours after we found out the horrific news and witnessed such evil, I started to really have just some questions around our reactions to events and the need to give a response or to give commentary. And at one point, I kind of just asked a question: what would happen if we just waited 7 days, like grieved for 7 days, based off of really the ancient Israelite method of grieving the dead, and just said, for 7 days, we're not going to qualify our statements. We're not going to commentate on the situation. We're not going to try to do, a historical consideration of the life and work of Charlie Kirk. And just for 7 days, I wonder what would happen. How would that change our tone? How would that change our hearts? How would that soften our perspectives? How would that give us clarity in what we think and allow emotions to kind of process and take their time? And so I wanted to implement this idea even in this video. I wrote a long form piece on Substack. If you want to read it, you can read it. And that's really what I'm building off of, because I don't want to be flippant with my words. And so I want to invite you into the first 24 hours of kind of my own raw processing of what took place and how I was dealing with it. It really started when I got a text message, and then my phone started to blow up, and it just said, the text message was just, "Charlie Kirk has been shot. Please be praying." And my Instagram was absolutely flooded with, the breaking news of Charlie Kirk and different information of his condition. And right off the bat, I'm tempted right here to qualify who Charlie Kirk was. We know now that he did not survive the shooting. He was assassinated. There are a couple of clarifications I want to make, my own internal struggle, right? I want to say, well, Charlie Kirk was a conservative political pundit. He was the president and founder of Turning Point USA. Before we get into all those details, I think we need to just talk about also who Charlie Kirk was. He was a son of God. He was a son of a mom and a dad. He was the husband of a wife. He was the father of 2 beautiful children. He was a human being who was made in the image of God with inherent dignity and worth. And the fact that I have to keep saying the past tense, he was, is honestly crushing. Again, I feel like I have to clarify a lot. I feel like I need to qualify my areas of disagreement with Charlie Kirk, which there are a lot of areas of disagreement in terms of method, not so much in terms of all of the message, the substance of the message. I think we have very similar values, but his method and the strategy that he employed, lots of disagreements there. I feel the pressure of the opponents of Charlie's method and message kind of attacking me, It's well, what about the posts for social justice? What about the posts for Black brothers and sisters in Christ who are murdered? Where are all of those posts about the children who are murdered in a classroom? I feel the pressure to justify who I am and what I have been about, the dignity of all of humanity, the value of life for all people. And yet there are certain inflection points in history where things rise to the top and they become almost an opportunity to evaluate and diagnose kind of the rest of the situation. The reality is the simple fact that I posted a very, I thought, honest and non-controversial reel of, hey, what we witnessed was spiritual warfare. What we witnessed is the unseen battle of breaking through. Just that simple kind of phraseology and idea resulted in the most wild and out-of-pocket comments in the comments section, which is disheartening. It really makes me wonder, where's the hope for humanity? You see, I had a friend who messaged me a video just 30 minutes after I posted the reel. So I actually hadn't even seen the full video footage. I had just heard about this and got that text message that he had been shot. And my instant reaction was like, hey, we need to be praying. We need to just condemn evil as evil. I thought that the clip that I was about to watch was like a news anchor with updates, but it wasn't. It was the clip of Charlie being shot in the neck. Unedited, raw, real, and absolutely devastating. I found myself in a bit of a trance. I'm an analytical person. I've got an analytical mind. And so I tried to evaluate things and analyze them as best as I can. And so here I am sitting on an airplane seat 13D, stuck. I couldn't take my eyes off of the video. I wanted to, but I couldn't. I analyzed every part of that video, and then finally I turned it off, and I ended up just texting my wife this. I'll read it to you. I just said, I'm so sick on this flight. Like to my stomach. I shouldn't have watched that video. I just want to cry. I wanted to cry. I did my best to keep it together for the rest of the flight. I literally jogged to my parked car in the airport. I sat down and I just started sobbing. You see, I don't think as humans, we're supposed to view murder so casually. I don't think we're supposed to watch a gunshot pierce a man's body and watch his body literally fight for life before his conscience even knew what was taking place. And honestly, this is where things got very personal for me. He was answering a question. It was during a Q&A. It's something I've done so often. I have been in that exact situation in terms of like just having a question, answering it, putting the mic down, and he had no clue what was going to happen the second that he put that mic down after he answered it. And as I was thinking about that, I just started crying and sobbing in my car. As I was sharing some of this on my Instagram, I just got an overflow of messages from friends who were just thanking me for my honest and raw response. And I didn't want to share this vulnerable part of me. You see, it makes me feel weak. It feels a bit humiliating. But then I remembered one of the things I wrote about in my book, The Hidden Peace. I'll read the quote. I said, "The problem is we think weakness, inability, and suffering are evidence of our lack of worth, when in reality, it's the perfect place for God to show his power, strength, and provide you the stability you long for, because he and only he is worthy." And even in that moment of weakness and vulnerability, like, man, I needed to rely on the power and the assurance of Christ. By the time I got home, my phone was once again blowing up. It was confirmed that Charlie had died. He was assassinated. I saw a picture of him and his wife and 2 children, and my heart just broke even more. And when I got home, I made the mistake of looking at my comments. You see, my thought was that in this moment of immense tragedy, that sides that are often divided on policy and politics could unite on the simple evil of murder. Humanity, sadly, once again proved me wrong, and I was devastated. So this is the real issue. And this is why in that Instagram reel, I talked about this being a spiritual battle. This is the unseen battle breaking through into our earthly existence. This is why I took my PhD dissertation and turned it into a popular level book to expose the evils of the enemy as they try to take the prized possession of God. Every battle has a prize, and the unseen battle of the cosmic realm is no exception. This is exactly why I wrote my next book, The Unseen Battle. The prize is the people, and the enemy is desperate to keep us divided. You want proof? Go take a look at the comment section of pretty much any person that posted anything about Charlie Kirk, and you'll see. And here's where I was just shocked. In just under a month, I had posted about respecting and honoring women, a response I did to Doug Wilson. And I got a comment from somebody who just absolutely came after my neck theologically. The last comment that this person left was, "And finally, see your woke evangelical anthropology as chock full of recent readings. Following you during BLM was the icing on the cake," basically accusing me of woke theology and wokeism in general. So you can imagine my shock when I saw a comment on my post about Charlie saying things like, Can you repost the video you did for George Floyd? Or why didn't you say anything about the school shootings and the innocent children that died? And the comments go on and on. And here's the massive problem. I've been as consistent as I possibly can. I ended up replying to one of those comments, and I said this, and this is what I would like to say just publicly, like, I'm not the one. And then they were like, you're not the one for what? And I replied, I'm not the one to accuse of not standing up for my Black brothers and sisters during the racial injustice issues, because I did a 9-week study through the minor prophet Amos, who I actually call the social justice prophet. I'm not the one because I've actively called for unity around race and injustice from my messages I've preached to the church that we attend in our community, Transformation Church in South Carolina. I'm not the one because I included all of that in my book, The Hidden Peace, which, by the way, got a negative review because I dared to bring race into the conversation of the gospel in the context of humility. I'm not the one because I wrote a PhD dissertation, took me 6.5 years of my life, to talk about how the dark powers propagate and promote racial injustice and evils of all kinds to separate and divide the family of God. And I'm convinced more than ever that politics is one of those tools that they're using as well. I finally just said, I'm not the one. But all of these comments in these comment sections, they really expose the spiritual blindness of humanity. And it's not just non-Christians, which we would expect. It exposes the spiritual blindness of Christians who are so caught up on method, strategy, political idolatry, and ideology that they were unable to see the image of God in one another, even those that they disagree with. The sad thing in these comments is that people will actually turn away from Jesus because of the way that Christians act. So what's the solution? The solution to spiritual blindness is an act of the Spirit to restore our sight. As Ephesians 6 proclaims, our fight isn't simply against flesh and blood. No, our struggle is not against flesh and blood. This is what Ephesians 6 says, but against the rulers, against authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens. For this reason, in light of this battle, take up the full armor of God. Not part of it, not a section of it, not whatever is your favorite. Take up the full armor of God so that you may be able to resist in the evil day. And having prepared everything, you take stand, which basically presumes that we've done the preparation in order to step into the battle. Paul says this in 2 Corinthians 4:3-4, but if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. In their case, the God of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. There is a real battle, and the people are the prize. Sadly, I think someone or a cultural moment has convinced us to think in binary either or. Either we take this approach or we have to take that approach. And there is no in between. But I have a question. Who said this? And why would we believe it? I'm reminded of the often misquoted saying from Augustine. He never said this. Preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words. This is so dumb. No. Preach the gospel at all times and always use your words. Always match your words with your actions. I've seen so many comments saying we don't need prayer, we need gun reform. And can I just lovingly suggest, why is this an either or? What about we desperately need prayer and we need reform in our legal system? I wonder if Daniel's friends rebuked him while he was praying, saying, Daniel, now? You're praying now? We need to take up arms. We need to revolt. We need to get our freedom back. They were probably shocked when they heard about the angel that came to Daniel and literally said, Daniel 10:12, don't be afraid, Daniel. He said to me, for from the first day that you purpose to understand and to humble yourself before God, so humility, your prayers were heard, and prayer. Posture of humility, persistence in prayer. I have come because of your prayers. Now, more than ever, the people of God, we've got to equip ourselves daily with the armor of God. In fact, this very armor will equip us as we act responsibly in our world through our voting and pursuit of legislation for the safety of society. We need unity, and we need to refrain from unwise rhetoric. Maybe it's time for this meme culture to take a hiatus along with cancel culture. We need the prophetic voices of our generation to take a moment and live in the sobriety of the Spirit of God. Not every moment has to be a viral moment that we perpetuate with antagonism and caricature of people and their positions. The thing I respected about Charlie was his willingness to talk to anyone about his views and their views in a respectful debate and discussion. civility must be regained. The way towards this is the way of Jesus. It's the way of cruciformity. It is the path of humility. I've got 2 more videos I want to do on this before I tie a bow on it. The next video is going to be on how pastors should respond in this cultural moment, trying to assess kind of 2 polarizing opinions, it seems like, on what a pastor must do and what is implied if they don't do exactly what they must do. And the third video is going to be a historical theology video that is going to talk about Christian martyrdom. What does church history teach us about this? And hopefully with that information, I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I do want to give you a lot to think about as you consider how that might apply in our modern context. Thank you for your understanding as we're trying to process something in real time that really none of us should have ever had to deal with in the first place. Grace and peace to all of you. And by the way, humble theology always wins. Hey, Humble Theology fam. It's kind of wild, but I wrote my very first book and it released earlier this year. It's called The Hidden Peace. Here it is right here. Finding true security, strength, and confidence through humility. Really what I wanted to do was write a book that was accessible for the everyday average Bible reader, but gave you some sound biblical theology on the ancient virtue of humility, which was in fact the very virtue that sustained and helped the first century church to thrive and flourish. And this was all based around Philippians 2, 8, and 9, the idea that Jesus himself really exampled for us and modeled for us divine humility. And so the book is available right now. If you've ever felt anxious, if you are worried about what other people feel or look about you, I mean, if you've had any type of insecurities really at all in your life and it has robbed you of peace, the secret to the peace that you've been longing for is this ancient virtue that has for far too long been neglected, the virtue of humility. The Hidden Peace is available on Amazon and all the major book retailers where you would normally get it. You can also get a copy from Proverbs 31 Ministries, the P31 bookstore, which is where I serve as Director of Theology. And I'll have a link in the show notes for you as well. I pray that this book would be an encouragement for you as you grow and you learn how to cultivate the soil of humility, which is in fact the soil in which all the fruit of the Spirit of Galatians 5 flow from. Blessings to you, friends.